All right. Hi, this is Mr. Fox. We're going to talk a little bit about the Federalist Era. I kind of having to go back. I made a couple of videos like years ago, but we've kind of added something to this PowerPoint that I want to talk about really quick. And that has to deal with the ratification of our Constitution. So, we talked a little bit about in December, a little bit about the Constitutional Convention and what that looked like and the compromises that it took to finally get the Constitution made. But once those guys in Philadelphia approve of it, it doesn't like automatically, snap your fingers, become law. It has to go through a process called ratification. And in order for ratification to happen, 9 of the 13 states have to approve it. 9 of the 13 states, that's a super majority, have to approve this Constitution to become the official law of the land. So that's kind of a key detail there is 9 of the 13 states. There are kind of two groups that form in protest to this. Not in protest, but more like in response to this. You have, on the one hand, you have this group known as the Federalists. And these are Federalists. They are in favor of the Constitution. Okay, so their group name is Federalists. Their belief is, that the Constitution should be passed. You have the anti-federalists, who are the other group. They're anti-federalists, so they're opposed to those federalists. They don't even get their own name, right? We just call them the anti-federalist. That kind of gives you a clue on who loses this debate. And so these anti-federalists are against the Constitution to some degree. Some hated it completely. Some were like, well, if you fix this one issue, we might become a federalist. So they're kind of, back and forth on both sides there. But a lot of people oppose this Constitution for a lot of various reasons that we'll kind of touch on here in a second. But you have the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. And remember, the Federalists want the new Constitution. Okay, so we can go over this slide. The Federalists are people who support the new Constitution. The two most famous Americans, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, they're on the side of the Federalists. That gives them a lot of influence and a lot of kind of political clout and ability. And you also have three really intelligent men named John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison. Those three guys kind of form this core group of the Federalists, and we'll talk about them here just in a second. The Anti-Federalists don't have a lot of famous people. You have George Mason, who's somewhat famous. He's not on the slide, but Richard Henry Lee, we talked about him a little bit. Richard Henry Lee was an Anti-Federalist, which is one of the reasons we don't really know about him much anymore. And Patrick Henry, the famous, give me liberty or give me death kind of guy, he ends up being an anti-federalist as well. They argue that if we pass this Constitution, it's going to be like creating a new king. They're going to take away all our rights and all our freedoms. They think that the best government is a state local government. Patrick Henry has a quote. He says, "The Constitution is incompatible with the genius of republicanism." He did not like the Constitution. To kind of help support this Federalist cause, those three guys we talked about earlier, John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton, they get together and they write a collection of essays. There's 85 essays that they write together, known as the Federalist Papers. John Jay only writes 5 of those. James Madison writes 29 of them, and then Hamilton writes the other 51 essays in just a time period of a few months, which is incredible. These guys pumped out essays. And it really helps sway 2 states, and we'll talk about the 2 states, especially one of them. But the major kind of criticism that the Constitution runs into, the major criticism these guys are having to speak out against, is this idea that it doesn't have a Bill of Rights. The Constitution doesn't have a Bill of Rights, and they'll end up going back and kind of attaching that as kind of a compromise. So Delaware instantly ratifies the Constitution. Within 3 months of it being pushed out, Delaware's like, yep, we're on board. In 1788, New Hampshire becomes the 9th state to approve it, meaning we have our new government, 9 of the 13 approve. The only problem is the 2 biggest states, Virginia and New York, have not approved it. They aren't on board with it quite yet. So these Federalists, okay, especially those 3, John Jay, Hamilton, and James Madison, they go in and they start writing essay after essay directed especially towards New York, but also in part to Virginia, which is where James Madison is from. So they really push home this idea of the Constitution is going to be great. Here's reasons why. They respond to critics. They're like, this guy says this. Well, here's why he's wrong. Kind of like what you guys did with your research paper. You had that argument, your claim, your counterclaim. They're like, here's their claim. Here's why it's wrong. They get a Bill of Rights assured. They're like, we promise if you approve the Constitution, the Bill of Rights will happen. And after they kind of make that promise, they make these arguments. Virginia goes ahead and approves. New York goes ahead and approves. And it's close, as you can kind of see here, right? New York, it was 3 votes. Massachusetts was like 19. Virginia was 20 vote swing one way or another. But they do approve it, which means we have our new government. We have our new country now. And that's kind of where the next video picks up, which is we have our first president, and that's George Washington getting elected. But so I tried to fly through that really quick. Hope you enjoyed it, got something from it. You can always pause, rewind, go back. Have a good day. If I can pause the video. Oh no.